Hello everyone, my name is Olivia and I'm your current VP Wellbeing Diversity, and today I bring you a Wellbeing Workshop all to do with feeling overwhelmed at university. So this workshop is going to go through some techniques that might help when you're feeling overwhelmed, and also the support that's available here for you because you don't have to go through this alone. I wanted to start off by saying that feeling overwhelmed at university is completely normal. You have so many things going on, whether that's your studies alongside being a part of a community and juggling a part-time job and everything. It's completely normal to feel overwhelmed, but you don't have to go through it alone, and it's okay to get further support. So this workshop's just going to go through all the things that you can do to help that. Okay, so I am not a professional. I'm not qualified to give out. I'm not a counsellor, I'm not a therapist, but I was a student here at Royal Holloway. I've now graduated now, but I completely understand firsthand what it's like to get overwhelmed because of university. And I'm just going to go through a few things that helped me when I was going through university and some things that I learned along the way. But I'm not perfect. I definitely have things to work on, and I definitely have some techniques that I can add more into my daily life too. But these are just some of the things that I have learned being a student and what I've done to help me. As I've just said, I am not a professional, but I'm going to start this workshop by going through some of the cognitive behavioral therapy techniques that I have come across and I have used, and that I've gained information from the NHS and everything. So further information can be found on NHS websites. So, cognitive behavioral therapy is a type of talking therapy that is there to help us change the way that we think and we act in order to help cope and manage things in our lives, including getting overwhelmed. It's based on the idea that our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are closely linked and influence each other. So, I'm going to go through 3 cognitive behavioral therapy techniques that have helped me. First sort of CBT technique exercise that I'm going to talk to you about is reframing unhelpful thoughts. So it's completely natural to feel worried every now and again, but sometimes when we're anxious, our thoughts can be really negative, and these can lead to them being unhelpful as well. So it can be beneficial to just step back and examine the evidence for your thoughts and explore other ways at looking at the solution. So, firstly, you recognize your thoughts. Secondly, you challenge your thoughts. And thirdly, you try to replace the thoughts with a more helpful thought process. So, this can also be called the catch it, check it, change it technique. So, for example, you might be worried about failing an exam. And then if you fail that exam, that means you can't carry on with your studies. So, you first of all, you step back and you catch it and you check the thought. So, you ask yourselves questions like, is this a reasonable thought process to be taking? Is there evidence for this thought? And then, for example, does failing an exam automatically mean you cannot carry on? So, why do you feel like you're going to fail this exam? Is this a realistic thought? Like, is there evidence that if you fail this exam, you're going to have to drop out of university? Or is this just something that you're catastrophizing in your head? Then you see if you can change it to a positive thought. So, for example, with the example that we're using, you think to yourself, I have prepared for this exam. I've put a lot of work in and I'm going to do my best. And then you're going to ask yourself if you can ask your lecturer for further support with this exam. You see the other ways you can go about changing this to a more positive thought so you can come up with the action at the end. I also think something that you can do is like try and think to yourself, what would you do if a friend came and said the same thing to you? If a friend came to you and was like, I'm going to fail my exam, I'm going to have to drop out of university, what would you say to them? And try and say those things to yourself. Also, I think it's really important to not put pressure on yourself to be able to do this all the time. This is something that's going to come with doing practice and takes practice. And sometimes you can't get out of that thought and you just sort of have to ride it through. But the catch it, check it, change it technique is something that I found really beneficial to try and stop myself catastrophizing about certain situations. The second CBT technique / exercise that I'm going to talk you through is about tackling your worries. So sometimes it can be as simple as just needing to write everything down. So you can visualize everything you're worried about and you can almost get out of your head. But sometimes that doesn't always work. So what I do is if I'm having a very overwhelmed, really unhelpful thoughts day, I will set myself some worry time and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to time block in my calendar 30 minutes later to just go through everything I'm worried about and try and reframe my thoughts to do with that. And when I am in that half an hour, I use a technique called the worry tree to try and get me through this. So the first thing I do is ask myself, what am I worrying about? And I try and use the catch it, check it, change it technique from earlier to replace my unhelpful thoughts with helpful thoughts. But as I said, that doesn't always work. So then we move on to a different section of the worry tree. And then I ask myself, is this something I can do something about? If it is something I can do about, then I write down an action plan. And when I'm doing that action plan, I ask myself 3 questions. So, what can I do? How can I do that? And when? If this is something I can do immediately, I take immediate action. And if the worry comes back, I remind myself that I have taken the action to solve this. If there's something I can do something about, but I can't do anything about it now, I will time block my calendar and schedule time to do it later. And then if the worry returns before that time, I remind myself that I have a plan in place to solve that worry. If I cannot do anything about the worry, I find this quite difficult, but I have to acknowledge the fact that it's out of my control, that it's completely valid for me to worry about this, but there's nothing I can actually do. So you have to try and not dwell on it, which is not always easy, but you just almost have to shift your focus. And sometimes this can lead to me getting more overwhelmed. And then that's when I move on to a breathing technique, which is what I will be discussing next. The final CBT technique that I'm going to talk you through is more of a breathing technique. So sometimes you can genuinely just be so overwhelmed that you just need to take a minute to breathe before you can kind of find the root of the problem. And I use the 4-7-8 breathing techniques. There are other breathing techniques out there. This is just the one that I find that works for me. So this involves inhaling for 4 seconds, holding your breath for 7 seconds, and then exhaling for 8 seconds. And almost like letting all the air out. So apart from the CBT techniques that we've just spoke about, there's also things that you can do in your daily life that if you don't want to resort to CBT and you just want to add some things into your life just to help with feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So I'm going to go through a few of those now, and there's a variety of different techniques. So this is just some things that I have come up with, but there's plenty of other things that you can do as well. My first tip is time blocking. As you can see, what I'm doing now, if you time block your calendar, you'll be able to see when you've actually got to do things, which will help with not being as overwhelmed. Another technique is journaling. So, as I was saying earlier, sometimes it helps to write things down. Sometimes it's beneficial to have like questions you ask yourself every day, or just genuinely just putting pen to paper. Can sometimes make you feel better. Having exercise as part of your weekly routine is also really important, whether that's going to the gym, being part of a sports club, going to an exercise class, doing some Pilates, or even just going for a walk. Having that time blocked in, getting out, doing something active is also something that will benefit your mental health too. This one seems pretty like straightforward, but I think it's something that we almost forget. I think talking to people is so important. Just have a yap with your friends, have a talk. It can honestly make you feel so much better. Finally, self-care. This is different for everyone, so whether that's reading a book or watching a TV show, doing some exercise, you have to find what works for you, but time blocking self-care is so important to make sure you actually do it. Okay, so now that I've gone through both CBT techniques and things that you can add into your daily life, we're now going to talk about the support that is here. And I know that sometimes it can be so hard to ask for support, but I really want you to know that you are not on your own. You have access to so many support both on campus and off campus, and sometimes you just need that little bit of extra support just to help you almost like learn how to do these things, but also just sometimes it's better just to talk to someone, just to talk to people and discuss what's going on. So on campus we have the wellbeing team. So the wellbeing support team are there to support all students with their general wellbeing, and they can be contacted on email. I'm going to put the email here. And then we also have the counselling team. So our counselling and mental health team are here to support with personal and emotional mental well-being, with the aim to help you find the best ways that you can support yourself through your academic studies. Their email can be found here. But also you can fill in their registration form online, and if you type in counselling and mental health, RHUL, that should come up if you type that into Google. And then we also have the SU Advice Centre. So the SU Advice Centre is based on the first floor of the Student Union, and the Advice Centre is there to offer free and independent service for all students at Royal Holloway, and they're here to support with a range of issues, whether that's academic, wellbeing, or housing. They are there to support you and to speak to you, and they're incredible. I work with them very closely in my role, and they are lovely, and they're always there to support, and their email is found here. But apart from that, if you don't feel comfortable going to on-campus support, that's completely fine. I'm going to say 2 off-campus supports that there also are, but there are plenty. So you can do some research as well. But firstly, so the Charity Mind, their support line, if you call 0300 102 1234, they you can speak to them about anything that you're going through, but they also can help you find further support services, and they can help you figure out your next steps. They're open 9 to 6, Monday to Friday, except bank holidays. So they're there to support you through that time. Then the other one that I wanted to mention was the Samaritans call line. So if you call 116 123, they are available 24 hours a day, 365 days in the year, and they're there to listen to you. They're there to be a sounding board and to listen to what's going on, because sometimes it's just nice to talk to someone who doesn't understand, doesn't know you. It's all confidential unless you're a risk to yourselves or others, but they don't know your name. If you don't want to give it to them, it's completely like confidential, and they're there to listen to you and not to advise. So they're there just to listen to you. But apart from that, there are other wellbeing workshops on the RHSU website under the advice tab, where this one is currently sitting. And there's teams have done other ones to help you go through other things as well. So they're there to support you. So that is the end of my wellbeing workshop. I hope this has been some use to you and you can pick some things up from this. But I think the main thing to reiterate is that it's completely normal to feel overwhelmed. Everyone feels overwhelmed, and whether you want to help yourself by adding things into your daily routine or whether you want to get support, it's not a weakness to get support. Like, people are there to support you, as I said, both on campus and off campus. So yes, I hope you are okay and you get through this sort of area of being overwhelmed, because it does stop and it does get better. Thank you so much.